I've arrived back to Florida for this weekend's Coke Zero Sugar 400, and while en route connecting to the Wi-Fi on the plane after my layover in Charlotte, the 2026 NASCAR schedule was the first thing to appear on my feed, as well as the NASCAR website. So here we are right now. In this video, I'll end up sharing my thoughts on the 2026 schedule for all three series, which will mainly dive into the Cup Series since it sets the tone for the other two series for the most part. But we'll also take a look at the schedules for each series, and we'll get a good look at everything. I'm going to try to keep this fairly short and sweet, so let's roll right into this thing, beginning with the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series schedule. Getting into the Cup Series schedule, there are some, I guess you can call it drastic changes, and then there is also just some movement around the schedule that helps with that drastic change. So we're going to get into the things that I listed of note, and we're going to go all the way to the sixth race of the season, with the first five in the preseason clash remaining the same as last year. And the sixth race of the year, it's now Darlington, which moves from the eighth race of the season, which was in April this year. Like I said, it's the sixth race now. It is in March, and it pretty much takes over that Homestead Miami date they had earlier this year, which they are returning back as the finale, as it should be. I have no problem with this at all. And I think it'll be a good time to get another race in the South during the month of March, and we'll knock out Throwback Weekend as well to make the start of the season maybe just a little more exciting. The only problem is we're seeing the lack of creativity for throwbacks, but honestly, that's a topic for another time. And one little minor thing after that is Bristol ends up just being 1 week earlier on the schedule. It's very minor. It's race 8 on the season, which that is the return of the Easter break, which we started seeing those Easter breaks beginning again this year for the Cup Series. And then we have Kansas moving into April, which I have problems with, honestly. And the first thing is you have the cold temperatures, and that is going to be a thing for sure. And if we don't have those cold temperatures, it is also the peak season for tornado season, as the spring transition season ends up bringing the most violent weather in the Midwest. I have a lot of concerns for this because I am someone who now lives in the Midwest, and I dealt with the craziness this year with multiple tornadoes going through St. Louis. So I'm not a fan of this move whatsoever, especially how the attendance was earlier this year. If you saw my race vlog earlier in the year, which I'll have that linked up on the top of the screen for you to check out. The track that ends up taking over the Kansas date from last year, it ends up being Watkins Glen. And this move to me absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. It's a race that consistently sells out, and I'm going to be honest, it's probably not going to sell out next year, because I don't believe fans will be camping in the cold weather all weekend long in literally upstate New York. It's essentially upstate, even though it's right near the border, but it still counts as upstate. And it's just a complete head scratcher in my opinion, especially during the spring season where New York can get very cold still, and you can rarely see snow. I'm not going to say that's going to happen, and Fox will also be broadcasting this event, so this is probably going to be a very unfortunate race weekend. And if the race was hot garbage like it was this year, just wait for next year. After that, things just get weirder, and we have Dover. They end up losing a points race, and they're hosting the All-Star race. And it's absolutely ridiculous because they literally were hosting 2-point races this season. Now they suddenly have none. And I agree, this may not be the best track on the schedule, but I did enjoy the racing this year, and it's just completely awkward to, accept the reality that this won't be a points race next season. And Texas, when it was the All-Star race, it wasn't great by all means, but it had lights, and that could at least be attractive in its own ways. This race is literally just going to be in the middle of the day. I have no clue when the Open is going to be, because you have the other two series that will also be racing for points at Dover, and the track doesn't have lights, and obviously you only have so much daylight in the day. You could have easily taken away Darlington's date, but here we are essentially. They have 2 dates, and they're going to keep having 2 dates, and Dover just is now a non-points race in the Cup Series. Getting into the summer, we do see some tweaks. We end up seeing Pocono just moving up a week from last year, moving from 17th to 16th. And then the week after, we have San Diego, which this replaces Mexico City. And this is pretty much due to what will be the ongoing 2026 FIFA World Cup, which will also dictate what races I can attend next year off topic. And this would be a 1-year opportunity for San Diego to just put on a show on their city on the naval base. So it's going to be something I'm extremely excited for. And I believe it's going to be an absolutely spectacular event that will be directly competing with the 2026 FIFA World Cup. It also looks like the in-season challenge is returning. And this time around, Sonoma will be opening the tournament at the end of June, moving from race 20 to 18, which is much better than Atlanta opening it up, as we saw the biggest wreck on an intermediate track in NASCAR history, which pretty much shook up everything drastically. In the second race, we essentially are still in Chicago, but NASCAR is making the return to the oval of Chicagoland Speedway, and I'm absolutely excited for this, as I've never liked the street circuit, even though it's something I've attended, which was earlier this year. I'll also leave that link on the top of the screen for you to check it out and see my experience and hear my thoughts. And I do believe the next gen card will put an absolute show on over there. And afterwards, Atlanta pretty much just flip-flopped with Sonoma, and it'll be the third race and 20th of the season, and it's much better than the first race, which I already brought up that reason, and I'm sure it's still going to be chaotic, but at least the bracket will be maybe a little more predictable. And then we also have a new track on the schedule for points specifically, and North Wilkesboro ends up being the fourth race of this tournament and the 21st race of the season, moving from hosting the All-Star race for the past 2 seasons, which is going to be interesting how these races go, holding 36 cars on the track at the minimum. So I am excited to see how that traffic will play out for this race. And then I'll wrap up with Indianapolis with a summer break afterwards, which is something we have not seen in a hot minute. Towards the end of the regular season, we'll see Richmond just move 1 race back from 25 to 24, even though it will literally be on the same weekend as last weekend's race. And New Hampshire is the one race that gets bumped out of the playoffs after what will be their lone season return this year. And they'll move from opening the round of 12 as race 30, moving to race 25 the week before Daytona. And notably, Richmond and Daytona are both night races, and they're the only 2 scheduled night races on the schedule, and that is absolutely disappointing. Even though my Sunday, most recently, definitely felt quite boring after church this week. Now we'll take a look at what the playoffs look like. The round of 16 will remain the same as this year, and then the round of 12 will see Las Vegas be the second race of that round before Kansas, which is moved back a race, with the Charlotte Roval unfortunately still being a thing. And Las Vegas ended up moving back around, which I do disagree with, and that is due to Phoenix being replaced at the championship finale, which moved into the round of 8 as the opener, moving where Las Vegas was. Yet we still have Talladega in the round of 8, which is a big disagreement for me, and I've had that since the schedule release last year for this year. But the great thing is Homestead Miami is returning to host the season finale, and I cannot wait to see that end off the season. So the tale of the story is, overall, I didn't like a handful of the schedule changes for the regular season and the playoff schedule. It definitely has its ups and downs, but I'll take it a little more as a positive, and then at the end of the video, I'll share what races I'll be looking to attend next year as well, so you can have an idea to know what race vlogs you may be seeing. And then also, I figure this is worth to highlight who has the broadcasting rights throughout the season, which we'll see Fox open up with Bowman Gray in the Daytona 500 notably, and they'll go up to the All-Star race at Dover, and I'm just sure they'll go out with a bang. I'm not thrilled with them having Watkins Glen as mentioned. And then we'll see Amazon Prime, aka Prime Video, have the rights to 5 races again, beginning with Charlotte. And then they'll get one new race with San Diego replacing Mexico City. So I cannot wait to see what they do next year because they absolutely killed it. And then TNT once again has the in-season challenge. So hopefully they do manage to upgrade from last year, which I do believe they will. And then after the in-season challenge, NBC ends up taking over for the rest of the season, beginning in August at Iowa, all the way to the end of the season. Next, we'll have what will be called the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, with Xfinity no longer being the series sponsor after 2025. And overall, I would say things line up well with the Cup Series schedule. We'll end up seeing Rockingham return during the Easter weekend just like last year. Dover will still be a points race throughout the season during the All-Star weekend, which I have my questions still about that whole weekend. And then after that, like I said, the schedule pretty much resembles the Cup Series, including the inaugural race at San Diego, with the around the 12 not seeing Kansas as a playoff race in general, which I don't understand honestly. And then we'll see Las Vegas move into the round of 12, just like in the Cup Series, in the same fashion essentially as the second race of the opening round. And the rest of the schedule just pretty much lines up with the Cup Series from there. And notably, the series will not be competing at Michigan, North Wilkesboro, Richmond, New Hampshire, and the second Kansas weekend as mentioned, as they'll only have one day at Kansas in the regular season. Lastly, we have the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and this is where we arguably saw the biggest surprise on the schedule throughout the 3 series. And things fairly line up with the Cup Series schedule, even though they like to roam around a lot, as well as the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series on a rare occasion, you can say. And the surprise in the schedule comes early, as they will have their first ever street circuit race in St. Petersburg, Florida during IndyCar's opening race weekend, while the other 2 series will be in Austin, Texas at COTA. And this absolutely excited me, as it now feels the Tampa Bay region now has a NASCAR race in their area. And from my own experience as a local, it is very hard to convince me to make the drive from Tampa to St. Pete, whether it was just for a night out, baseball, or even this race weekend with IndyCar. I feel it does make this weekend even better and mean more, and it would have been something I've considered if I was around next year, and it should absolutely be an exciting race. I can't wait to see what it ends up bringing. And other than that, they'll also be back at Rockingham on the Easter weekend, and they'll debut with the other 2 series at San Diego, and that'll be their second street circuit race of the year. We'll also see Lime Rock ends up returning to the schedule again during the second Atlanta race weekend, just like earlier this year. And they won't be the only points race at North Wilkesboro now, and they'll continue the race at IRP during the Indianapolis race weekend. And looking into the playoffs, the round of 8 and the finale look completely identical to the other 2 series, with the round of 10 featuring the Charlotte Roval as their last race of that round after opening the round of 8 for this year, with Bristol opening the playoffs, followed by Kansas. And the series won't compete at COTA, the first Phoenix race weekend, both Las Vegas race weekends, the first Martinsville race weekend, Pocono, Sonoma, Chicagoland, the second Atlanta race weekend, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Iowa, the second Daytona race weekend, as well as the second Darlington race weekend, and Gateway in the St. Louis area. Overall, here is a full chart of how the schedule lays out for the top 3 series. Hopefully this helps paint a very clear picture of the schedules all together into one based on each weekend. I'm a very visual person myself, so this took plenty of time to put together, so feel free to pause the video to get another good look. So that's what the schedule overall looks like for 2026, and also a friendly reminder is we do have the race vlog for the Coke Zero Sugar 400 this weekend at Daytona with a lot of very cool content expected to be in that video, with a handful of special guests, with a surprise driver appearance in the works, with 2 amazing pre-race segments that are in the works right now as well. And it will also be a return to the traditional race vlogs with some tweaks after the past 2 race vlogs have shown some massive growth. So the plan is, just keep building on that. And anyways, the races I'll be looking to target next year, it'll begin in April when I return to St. Louis, which we're going to try to hit the back-to-back races at Kansas, followed by Talladega. So hopefully we make those happen again. And then I'll fully expect to be in Nashville. And then that's when the June friendly for FIFA opens up ahead of the FIFA World Cup. So I may not have a chance to be at the Michigan race, which I've never been to, unfortunately. But I will be fully committing to San Diego for sure. And then Chicagoland seems very likely. Indianapolis will be up in the air next year. I'll finally be able to go to Iowa. And then I'll return back here next year. And that will be Daytona. And maybe I'll end up doing a road trip. Go from St. Louis to Florida. And then we'll go to South Carolina for Darlington. And then go back to St. Louis for that race. So that'd be an opportunity to attend 3 races in a row. And then we have the Kansas playoff race, and then the Talladega playoff race is also a possibility. And then I'll definitely be at Homestead Miami Speedway for the championship 4 at the end of the season. Anyways, that's going to be it for me. I'll have another video releasing before the race as I am in Florida until Monday. And it is also my first time back since UF1 March Madness. Anyways, thanks for your support, and hit the subscribe button please if you haven't done so already, if you want to keep up with a lot of the NASCAR content that will be coming on the channel, because it's going to ramp up a lot with the playoffs coming up until the end of the season. And then I hope everybody ends up enjoying the race weekend, and we'll see what drivers fill the final 3 spots for the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs will start next weekend in Darlington. Other than that, that'll be it for me. Take care, everyone.